Dark psychology, emotional stability is the cornerstone of true attraction, yet it is also one of the most overlooked qualities in men. Most men confuse external confidence with internal stability. They believe flashing money, muscles, or charm will create magnetism, but these are superficial signals that can be faked. Real attraction comes from a man's ability to remain centered, composed, and unwavering in the face of uncertainty, stress, or emotional turbulence. Women, at a subconscious level, read stability as a signal of security, leadership, and long-term reliability. This is not learned overnight. It is cultivated through repeated choice, self-discipline, and mastery over one's inner state. Stoic psychology offers a perfect framework for understanding why emotional stability is so magnetic. The Stoics teach that external events are beyond our control, only our thoughts, choices, and actions are within our power. Emotional stability is a practical application of this principle. A man who understands this does not allow his mood to fluctuate based on another person's behavior. He does not seek approval to feel worthy, nor does he panic when circumstances deviate from expectation. He creates a calm, immovable inner citadel that others instinctively sense, and that sense creates attraction. In practical terms, emotional stability manifests as restraint. A man who has mastered his emotions can respond rather than react. When a woman is upset, confusing, or even distant, he maintains composure. He does not overanalyze, overreact, or try to fix the situation compulsively. This is not coldness, it is quiet confidence. Women are biologically wired to detect emotional chaos because chaos signals unreliability. A man who remains calm signals that he can manage uncertainty, protect his own space, and provide emotional security. This is profoundly attractive because, evolutionarily, stability equals safety. Emotional stability also changes the way a man communicates. He does not speak from anxiety or fear of loss. He does not overtext, overexplain, or seek constant reassurance. His words are intentional, measured, and weighted with meaning. Silence is not awkward, it is a tool of presence. He understands that pauses communicate confidence and control, and he uses them naturally. This is a stark contrast to men who flood interactions with nervous energy, inadvertently signaling neediness or insecurity. Emotional stability is the quiet framework that allows all other attractive behaviors to function. The path to emotional stability begins with self-awareness. A man must recognize the moments when he is being pulled by impulse rather than principle. Most men operate on autopilot, reacting to signals, delays, or perceived slights. They give their emotional power away to people, events, and circumstances. Emotional stability requires that you reclaim that power. You observe the stimulus, assess what is within your control, and then act with intentionality. This pause, this space between stimulus and action is where power lies. The ability to sit in that space without losing composure is rare, and rarity is magnetic. Stoic practice reinforces this daily. Journaling, meditation, reflection on your values, and self-examination help you understand why you feel what you feel. Emotional stability is not suppression, it is mastery. You feel your emotions fully, but you do not allow them to dictate impulsive or reactive behavior. If a woman withdraws attention, you do not spiral into panic or overcompensate. You notice, observe, and continue to operate from your internal center. This self-possession is what draws women instinctively. Another critical element of emotional stability is detachment from outcomes. Most men tie their self-worth to results. If she likes me, I feel good. If she doesn't, I feel anxious. A Stoic man detaches from results. He is not disinterested, he is independent. He values connection but does not need it to feel complete. This creates a subtle but powerful tension in interactions. The man is available without being desperate, engaged without being needy, interested without being attached. This balance is magnetic because it contrasts sharply with the vast majority of reactive men. Emotional stability also builds resilience in the face of tests. Women, unconsciously, will test a man's emotional mettle through ambiguity, delay, or minor conflicts. Most men fail these tests by panicking, reacting, or overcompensating. A man who is emotionally stable passes effortlessly. He does not need to prove himself. He does not need to manipulate or perform. He responds with calmness, clarity, and consistency. This stability creates trust, admiration, and ultimately attraction because it signals that he can handle uncertainty, protect boundaries, and remain reliable. Furthermore, emotional stability fosters consistency in action. When a man's emotions are uncontrolled, his behavior is erratic, hot one moment, cold the next. This unpredictability creates confusion and anxiety. Emotional stability produces predictability in a different way, not rigid predictability, but alignment between values, feelings, and actions. His behavior is consistent because it is guided by principle rather than impulse. Women notice this intuitively. Humans are attracted to patterns that suggest security and reliability, even if they cannot articulate why. Emotional stability also allows a man to operate from abundance rather than scarcity. Scarcity-driven behavior, clinging, over-explaining, chasing, signals fear and lack. Abundance-driven behavior, calm, patient, grounded, is magnetic. A man who is emotionally stable does not need constant reinforcement because he has reinforced himself internally. His attention, time, and energy are valuable, and this valuation is perceived instinctively. Abundance attracts naturally, without effort. A crucial practice in developing emotional stability is managing responses to triggers. Triggers, whether they are a delayed message, a perceived slight, or confusion in communication, are inevitable. An emotionally stable man identifies triggers, pauses, and chooses his response. He does not let emotional reflexes dictate behavior. He does not flip or lose composure. Instead, he acts in alignment with his values and long-term principles. This ability to remain composed under stress is rare, and rarity commands attention. Another component is cultivating inner peace independent of external validation. Most men seek validation as a shortcut to feeling stable. Approval temporarily fills the gaps in their emotional foundation. Emotional stability is built when a man stops seeking external confirmation and instead derives his emotional grounding from within. Meditation, reflection, exercise, mastery of craft, and disciplined routines are practical tools for this inner grounding. When a man is internally grounded, he does not wobble with external circumstances, and women sense this gravitas naturally. Emotional stability also enhances nonverbal communication. The tone of voice, posture, microexpressions, and eye contact all convey calmness, composure, and presence. Women subconsciously detect these cues and respond positively. A man who is calm in demeanor communicates that he is secure, reliable, and capable. This quiet, nonverbal power is often more influential than words or actions because it is instinctual. In addition, emotional stability allows a man to create psychological contrast. Most men are needy, anxious, and reactive. Against this backdrop, a man who is composed and self-contained stands out sharply. He becomes memorable without trying. He does not need to impress or perform. His mere presence, calmness, and certainty create intrigue and attraction. Psychological contrast is subtle but immensely powerful in female psychology. Emotional stability also facilitates long-term attraction. Initial excitement is fleeting. Deep attraction is built on trust, respect, and perceived reliability. A man who is consistently emotionally stable over time creates a foundation for long-term desire. Women sense the durability of his composure, and this creates an underlying magnetic pull that persists beyond superficial allure. The development of emotional stability is cumulative. Every interaction, every trigger, every moment of uncertainty is an opportunity to practice composure, reflection, and mastery. Emotional stability is built like a muscle, strengthened through repetition and conscious choice. Over time, it becomes natural, automatic, and internalized. This internalized calm is felt externally, creating attraction that feels effortless to others. Ultimately, emotional stability is a signal of mastery over oneself. It communicates that you are capable of handling life's unpredictability, managing relationships thoughtfully, and maintaining your composure under pressure. This mastery is universally attractive because it represents a form of power that is quiet, enduring, and reliable. Women do not consciously evaluate these traits, they feel them through energy, presence, and behavior. And this silent perception is far more persuasive than words, performance, or external validation. The most magnetic men are not loud, not performative, not desperate. They are stable, they are grounded, They respond with intentionality, not impulsiveness. They tolerate ambiguity without panic. They value themselves without needing approval. They are abundant without being showy. And this emotional stability becomes a foundation upon which all other attractive behaviors naturally rest. This is why emotional stability is the first of the 6 quiet behaviors that make a man highly attractive to women. Without it, other behaviors, presence, boundaries, silence, independence, integrity, cannot be fully realized. But with emotional stability, everything else aligns effortlessly. A man who embodies this does not need to chase, manipulate, or perform. His composure, calmness, and inner mastery radiate attraction naturally, effortlessly, and irresistibly. Dark psychology, the second quiet behavior that makes a man highly attractive to women, is intentional presence. Intentional presence is the art of fully inhabiting the moment without distraction, anxiety, or the need for validation. Most men operate in a state of partial presence. They are physically there but mentally scattered, checking phones, anticipating responses, or evaluating reactions. Women subconsciously detect this scattered energy as weakness, neediness, or lack of focus. True presence communicates value because it signals that your attention, time, and energy are under your control, not surrendered to the whims of others. Intentional presence begins with self-awareness. A man must recognize when his attention is fragmented, when his mind drifts toward insecurity, speculation, or fear of rejection. Most men never notice because their habitual patterns of thought are reactive. They respond automatically to perceived cues, small slights, or delayed attention. Stoic psychology teaches that we should distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. Our own attention and focus are within our control, the reactions of others are not. Cultivating presence means anchoring yourself in what you can control, your awareness, your energy, and your focus. When you practice intentional presence, your energy becomes more noticeable. It is subtle but powerful. Women are deeply attuned to nonverbal cues, tone of voice, eye contact, posture, microexpressions. A man who is genuinely present projects calmness, focus, and reliability. He listens actively rather than waiting for his turn to speak. He responds thoughtfully rather than reflexively. He is not distracted by the urge to impress or perform because his self-worth does not depend on external validation. This grounded presence alone creates intrigue, comfort, and attraction without a single word. Presence also impacts conversation. Most men feel compelled to fill silence or dominate dialogue to prove value. They overtalk, over-explain, or rush responses. In contrast, a man who is intentionally present listens deeply, observes subtly, and speaks with measured intention. His words carry weight because they are not wasted on anxiety or performance. Women are drawn to this because it communicates a sense of mastery and inner balance. The energy of someone fully engaged in the moment is irresistible because it contrasts sharply with the nervous, reactive energy most men project. Intentional presence is inseparable from emotional regulation. A man cannot truly inhabit the moment if he is reacting emotionally to perceived threats, delays, or uncertainty. Stoicism teaches that emotions should inform judgment but not dominate it. The presence of a composed man signals that he is grounded internally, which creates psychological safety. Women instinctively seek safety in a partner. They may not articulate it, but they feel the stability that presence provides, and it generates attraction at a deep, instinctual level. Another critical aspect of presence is body language. Your posture, gait, and microexpressions are constantly broadcasting your internal state. Men who are scattered or anxious unconsciously signal neediness, impatience, or lack of self-control. A man who is present, however, exhibits grounded energy. His movements are deliberate, his gaze is steady, and his gestures are controlled yet natural. Women read these cues instinctively, even if they are not consciously aware of why they feel drawn to him. Presence, in this sense, is as much about energy as it is about attention. Intentional presence also allows for selective engagement, which is the third quiet behavior of attraction. A man who is present knows the value of his attention and does not give it indiscriminately. He listens, observes, and decides where to invest energy. He does not chase approval or try to impress every person he meets. This selectivity communicates value naturally. Humans are wired to notice scarcity. Attention that is earned rather than freely given is psychologically prized. Women sense this naturally. When a man is intentionally selective, his presence feels more magnetic because it is consciously offered rather than assumed. Selective engagement also reinforces boundaries. A man who is selective in his focus is unlikely to compromise his standards to gain attention. He chooses interactions that align with his values and priorities. He does not overextend himself to appease others or chase validation. This balance of presence and selectivity communicates strength and integrity. Women sense this alignment intuitively. It signals that he respects himself and expects others to do the same. Respect for oneself translates directly into perceived value and attraction. The fourth quiet behavior, purposeful silence, is closely tied to presence. Silence is often misunderstood as emptiness, awkwardness, or disinterest. In reality, purposeful silence is a signal of control and confidence. A man who can pause, observe, and allow space in conversations demonstrates that he does not need to dominate attention to be valued. Silence allows words to have weight, moments to breathe, and curiosity to flourish. It is a subtle but powerful tool that conveys presence without effort. Stoics understood the power of measured speech. Speak only when necessary and speak with clarity and purpose. Purposeful silence also communicates self-sufficiency. When you are comfortable with quiet, you do not need constant validation or reassurance. You can tolerate ambiguity, waiting, and observation without panic. This tolerance is magnetic because it contrasts with the neediness most men display. Women instinctively recognize stability, patience, and independence in men who are comfortable in silence, and these qualities drive deeper attraction than words or external displays of status ever could. Intentional presence is reinforced through internal practices. Meditation, mindful breathing, journaling, and self-reflection train the mind to inhabit the moment fully. Presence is not simply a performance. It is a skill developed through awareness and discipline. When a man internalizes presence, it becomes automatic. He no longer drifts mentally, worries excessively, or reacts impulsively. He projects grounded energy consistently, and this consistency is magnetic. Women sense authenticity. Energy that feels natural and stable is far more compelling than energy that is forced or performative. Presence also affects how a man manages attention in social environments. He is observant, noticing subtle cues in body language, tone, and emotional energy. He does not overreact or rush to conclusions. Instead, he engages selectively, contributing meaningfully to conversations without dominating them. This measured participation signals intelligence, emotional maturity, and confidence. Women subconsciously associate these qualities with long-term stability, leadership potential, and reliability, qualities that create deep attraction. Another key aspect is detachment from outcomes. Most men engage socially with a hidden agenda, to impress, to be liked, or to secure attention. This creates a subtle but perceivable pressure that women instinctively detect. A man who is intentionally present, however, participates without attachment to outcomes. He is engaged but unpressured. He enjoys interactions without needing validation. This detachment creates psychological contrast, making him more magnetic precisely because he is not desperate to be chosen. It is paradoxical yet fundamental to female attraction. Intentional presence also enables emotional calibration. A man who inhabits the moment fully can adjust his energy to match or complement others without losing his own center. He is not reactive to mood swings, emotional turbulence, or social manipulation. Instead, he offers a stable energy field, which women unconsciously register as a safe and attractive environment. Presence is not simply about attention, it is about creating an emotional climate that draws others in naturally. Consistency is another byproduct of presence. Men who lack presence often fluctuate emotionally, socially, and behaviorally. Women sense inconsistency as instability. A man who is intentionally present creates predictable, reliable energy without being rigid or boring. His actions, attention, and demeanor are aligned with internal values. This alignment fosters trust, respect, and attraction because it signals integrity and self-mastery, qualities that are universally desired at a deep, instinctual level. Furthermore, intentional presence amplifies other quiet behaviors of attraction. When combined with emotional stability, selective engagement, purposeful silence, independence of desire, and integrity, presence acts as the adhesive that binds these qualities into a coherent, magnetic personality. It is the invisible force that makes a man stand out without performing or trying. Presence transforms ordinary interactions into moments of influence, connection, and attraction that feel effortless to others but are rooted in discipline and self-mastery. In social dynamics, presence allows a man to observe patterns, detect authenticity, and engage selectively with quality individuals. He is not distracted by superficial signals or immediate gratification. Instead, he navigates social environments with discernment and calm energy. Women sense this discernment intuitively. It signals intelligence, self-respect, and leadership, all qualities that elevate attraction beyond superficial charm. Presence also fosters deeper listening. Most men listen passively or only to respond. A man who is intentionally present listens actively, noticing verbal and nonverbal cues, emotional undercurrents, and subtle intentions. This deep listening communicates respect, attentiveness, and intelligence. Women unconsciously respond to men who truly hear them, not just react to them. Listening becomes a silent, magnetic form of connection that builds trust and admiration without effort. Finally, intentional presence allows a man to enjoy life fully in every moment. He is not preoccupied with outcomes, approval, or comparison. He is immersed in the experience itself, whether in conversation, activity, or solitude. This quality, being fully alive in the moment, creates an energy that women detect instinctively. It signals abundance, autonomy, and joy. It is attractive because it is rare. Most men operate in distraction, anxiety, or performance. Presence communicates that a man is self-sufficient, grounded, and complete, which is magnetic beyond any superficial technique. Dark psychology, the sixth and final behavior that makes a man highly attractive to women, is consistency in action, combined with independence of desire. These qualities, while subtle, form the backbone of long-term attraction. Most men underestimate how powerful they are because they focus on surface-level traits like humor, status, or appearance. Women are far more sensitive to energy, reliability, and integrity, qualities that reveal a man's inner architecture. When a man lives with consistency and self-directed desire, he communicates that he is in command of himself and his life, and this quiet command is magnetic. Consistency in action begins with aligning behavior to values. A man who behaves according to principle, rather than impulse or the desire for approval, projects stability. Women sense stability instinctively because it signals reliability, emotional safety, and long-term viability as a partner. In contrast, inconsistency, being hot one moment, cold the next, creates anxiety, uncertainty, and tension. A man whose actions reflect his words communicates trustworthiness without needing to prove it. Stoic philosophy reinforces this. Virtue is its own reward, and living according to principles produces harmony internally, which radiates externally. Independence of desire is the practice of enjoying connection without needing it for validation. Most men attach their emotional state to external outcomes. If she likes me, I feel good. If she doesn't, I feel anxious. This scarcity mindset leaks through tone, behavior, and energy. Women perceive this immediately, even subconsciously, as neediness. A man who is independent in his desire, however, does not tie his self-worth to external approval. He participates in life and relationships from abundance, not lack. He desires without needing, which is the essence of magnetism. Combining consistency with independence creates a paradoxical form of attraction. The man is available yet untouchable. He participates in interactions fully but without desperation. He expresses interest without clinging. He holds boundaries without rigidity. Women are wired to recognize and respond to this balance. When they encounter a man who is consistent, self-contained, and non-reactive, curiosity and respect grow naturally, creating desire without any overt effort. Consistency in action also includes emotional consistency. A man whose mood swings with every small interaction, text, or signals volatility. Women instinctively detect this instability. Emotional consistency communicates that a man is grounded, resilient, and capable of handling uncertainty. He does not overreact to delayed replies, changes in tone, or ambiguous behavior. Instead, he remains composed, observes calmly, and responds thoughtfully. This emotional mastery is inherently attractive because it signals strength without arrogance or force. Purpose anchors both consistency and independence. A man who is self-directed, disciplined, and invested in long-term growth naturally stabilizes his behavior. His energy, time, and attention are directed toward meaningful pursuits rather than chasing approval. Purpose-driven men radiate abundance because their lives are already fulfilling. This internal completeness allows them to engage socially and romantically without anxiety or neediness. Women detect this abundance instinctively, and it creates a natural gravitational pull toward the man's presence. Independence of desire also protects a man from emotional manipulation. Women, consciously or unconsciously, may test attention, provoke insecurity, or create ambiguity to assess stability. A man whose emotional state is independent does not fall into these traps. He does not over-explain, overcompensate, or chase reassurance. He maintains composure, upholds boundaries, and acts according to principle. This creates psychological contrast. Where others are reactive and needy, he is calm and self-contained. Contrast is a core driver of attraction because it highlights rarity and strength. Consistency in action extends beyond romantic interactions. It encompasses lifestyle, discipline, and the small choices that reveal character. How a man treats service staff, friends, and family, how he manages his time, and how he honors commitments, all these subtle behaviors communicate reliability. Women perceive these patterns unconsciously. A man whose actions reflect integrity across contexts becomes highly attractive because he signals long-term dependability without needing to boast or perform. Independence of desire also fosters deeper self-respect. When a man no longer requires validation to feel worthy, he naturally projects confidence. This confidence is not loud or performative. It is quiet, grounded, and steady. It manifests in tone, posture, microexpressions, and the energy he carries. Women are instinctively drawn to this because it communicates security, maturity, and emotional resilience. Desire without neediness is compelling because it represents freedom and self-sufficiency, the very qualities humans are evolutionarily programmed to value in a mate. The combination of these behaviors, emotional consistency, alignment with values, independence of desire, and principled living, creates psychological safety. Women are unconsciously attracted to men who can provide stability and security. This does not mean dominance or control, it means reliability, integrity, and calm presence. A man who embodies these traits allows women to relax, open, and connect without fear of volatility or disappointment. Safety, coupled with subtle confidence, is irresistibly attractive. Consistency and independence also amplify the effects of the other quiet behaviors discussed earlier: emotional stability, intentional presence, selective engagement, and purposeful silence. Without these foundational traits, a man may appear grounded temporarily but falter under pressure. True magnetism emerges when all these behaviors are integrated and habitual. The man does not act strategically. He simply exists in alignment with his principles, values, and priorities. Authenticity is its own attraction, and women sense it instantly. Another element is patience. A man who is consistent and independent does not rush intimacy or force outcomes. He allows connections to develop organically, knowing that authentic attraction deepens over time. Most men are impatient because they are insecure. They overpursue, overcommunicate, and overinvest, which signals neediness. In contrast, the patient man is confident that alignment and timing, not desperation, will determine outcomes. Patience signals maturity, wisdom, and long-term thinking, all of which are attractive qualities. Boundaries are a natural extension of these behaviors. A man who is consistent in his actions and independent in his desire enforces boundaries calmly and clearly. He does not compromise core values for temporary approval or attention. Boundaries communicate self-respect, which women sense instinctively. They create structure and predictability, further reinforcing emotional safety. A man who consistently honors boundaries projects an aura of integrity, which draws attraction without effort. Emotional intelligence complements consistency and independence. The ability to understand, manage, and navigate both personal emotions and social dynamics enhances attraction. Women unconsciously assess emotional intelligence through subtle cues, tone, timing, body language, and decision-making. A man who demonstrates emotional clarity, empathy without neediness, and calm responsiveness signals that he is capable of handling relational complexity, which increases both curiosity and admiration. Consistency and independence also allow a man to embody quiet leadership. Leadership here is not authority over others, but control over self and circumstances. A man who consistently acts according to principle, manages his attention wisely, and maintains internal composure models strength and reliability. Women, consciously or subconsciously, are drawn to this model because it represents competence, stability, and predictability, the markers of a strong partner. A man with these traits also becomes memorable without trying. Most men attempt to be memorable through loud actions, exaggerated behavior, or flashy displays. In contrast, consistency and independence create subtle, long-lasting impressions. Women remember a man whose energy was steady, whose attention was intentional, and whose presence was reliable. These impressions persist because they are anchored in perceived authenticity, not performance. Over time, these behaviors compound into a self-reinforcing cycle of attraction. Emotional stability, presence, selective engagement, purposeful silence, independence of desire, and consistency in action build on one another. Each behavior reinforces the others, creating a coherent, magnetic personality. The man no longer needs to chase, impress, or manipulate. Attraction flows naturally because his energy, actions, and demeanor signal internal mastery and self-sufficiency. The culmination of these qualities is quiet power. A man who is consistent in action, independent in desire, emotionally stable, present, selective, and measured radiates influence without force. Women feel it intuitively. They do not analyze it consciously. This quiet power is enduring because it is built on internal mastery, not external validation. It is subtle, invisible to casual observers, yet profoundly magnetic to those who are attuned to human psychology and energy dynamics. Finally, embodying these behaviors creates freedom. Freedom from the need for validation, freedom from reactive behavior, freedom from insecurity, and freedom from chasing outcomes. This freedom is inherently attractive. A man who is free projects strength, abundance, and confidence. Women are drawn to this energy because it signals capability, stability, and authenticity, the pillars of deep, lasting attraction. By integrating these 6 quiet behaviors, emotional stability, intentional presence, selective engagement, purposeful silence, independence of desire, and consistency in action, a man becomes naturally magnetic. He does not need to try, perform, or manipulate. Attraction flows effortlessly because he has mastered himself. This is the Stoic path applied to human relationships. Mastery of self produces power, influence, and magnetism. Women respond naturally to men who embody these principles, not because of superficial traits, but because of the invisible architecture of their character.